Okay, ICS4U, here's your Introduction to Java lesson. I'm going to be using IntelliJ. If you're using Replit, that's fine. It's going to work the same. But in IntelliJ, I'm going to be creating a new project now. So this program is just meant to show you how to create variables, couple of different types of variables, integers, doubles, and also how to print on the screen. So I'm going to go to File, and then New Project. I want to call this project numbers.java, just because it goes over the two types of numbers. Okay, so we're back from the summer. I haven't done this all summer. Let's see how we do this. New project, Java. We're just going to go to Next. We don't have to change anything on this screen. You can see that I have Java 14, version 14 for the SDK. You might have Java 15 or whatever the most recent one is. Because of the type of programming we're doing, it's all compatible. It should be fine. Java 10 is the one you'll be using online, and it's just perfectly fine. Okay, next. I'm just going to go to Next. We're not going to create a project from a template. We're just going to go to Next. And now, project name. This is an important screen. So change Untitled to Numbers with a capital N. So here's the thing with Java, and you're going to hear me say this several times. The name of the project has to match the name of the class. The class is the overall structure that we're going to be using. So numbers, capital N. You can see it shows you the project location. Yours is going to be different than mine. And if you're at the school, you're going to want to make sure that your project location is in your OneDrive or your H drive, your location where you can save files, and they'll be there no matter what machine you use. And I'll just say this again, if you save something to the C drive on a school machine, it may not be there yet the next day, or maybe it'll take a week or a month, but if they do a refresh, everything gets wiped out. So please save everything on your H drive or your OneDrive, or your Google Drive if you're using Google Stream. That's also a possibility. Okay, so project name is numbers. Click on Finish, and it says New Projects can be either a new window. I want a new window, or this window. I want this window because I'm not using this window for anything else. So here's the new window, and there's numbers. I'm going to right-click on where it says numbers. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to use this arrow to drop it down. Go to SRC and right-click on SRC. All right, I'm getting a message that Windows Defender might be impacting my build performance. We don't really care about build performance right now because the programs that we're running are so small. If it takes a few extra milliseconds to run, I'm going to just ignore that for now. I'll look at it later. Right-click on SRC, go to New Java Class. Now the name of the class, it's asking you for the name. Call it numbers with a capital M, a capital N, spelt exactly the same way as what you called your file without the .java. And once you've done that, you can select class, click on class, or just press enter, and there we go. So it's created your new class called numbers. It's going to denote everything inside of the class by curly brackets, starting and ending curly brackets. Hopefully you got into a good habit last year with Python with tabbing. Tabbing is not required in Java, but it's important to make the code look user-friendly. So I'm going to ask you to try to keep all those good habits with indenting that you learned in Python and carry those over to Java with you. So we're going to create the main method now. I'm going to gloss over this line for now, and then we'll explain it in a later lesson. But we're going to say public static void. Those are the three keywords that we need at the beginning of our main method. And now we're going to identify it with the keyword with main, because it's the main method. Every Java program that we're going to be doing in the next couple units will have a main method, and it'll have a line just like this. And I really want you to ignore, you still have to type this out, but I'll explain it, and it's just going to be too overwhelming if I explain everything all at once. So we have the round brackets, your IDE, interactive development environment, that's what it's called, whether it be IntelliJ or whether it be Replit or something else, it doesn't matter. And so it's going to create, if you type in a round bracket, this is what I was trying to get at. If you type in a round bracket, it completes the round bracket at the end. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to type in, no quotes, capital S for the word string, square braces, and then the word ARGS, args. That's the strangest line you'll probably end up typing for a while, and it's in every single one of your projects, and it's just creating the main method. Put a curly brace, and it creates an end curly brace, but hit enter a few times. So everything inside of those curly braces, I'm just going to go up to this curly brace. You can see that it highlights its matching curly brace. Everything, your entire program is going to be inside of those interior curly braces. I say interior because there's these outside or exterior ones with the class, but we're inside of the main method. You can tighten this up a bit if you want the two curly braces next to each other. And I like to do a full tab inside of there. I think that if I just went up to the top here and pressed enter, oh yeah, there you go, it's the full tab, whatever. So you'll notice that it gets everything that's inside of the class gets tabbed in, it's a block, and everything inside of the main method gets tabbed in again. So here's how we create a variable.
Please report to the Spec Ed office.
So here's how we create a variable in Java. We're going to create an integer first, so the keyword is int, and then num or number, whatever you want to call it. Int number. I'm just going to pause and try to make my font a bit bigger. Give me 1 second. Okay, I've made my font a little bit bigger. Hopefully that's easier to see now. Okay, we made int num. So that's our integer. We're calling it num. Not a big deal. And what we want to do is print out, well, we can give it a value on the next line. So num equals 5. Okay, at the end of every statement in Java, you have to put a semicolon, just like a period at the end of a sentence. I want you to notice that there's no semicolons on these first two lines because those, in general, if you have curly braces, if you're doing a statement that or creating a class or a main method, the curly braces denote the starting and ending of that block of code. But if you're doing a statement or a command like int num or num equals 5, the end of that statement, which is at the end of the line, should be a semicolon. The semicolon can go anywhere. Java doesn't care about how many extra lines you have. I could do something like this, which would look really silly, but it would just ignore all that empty space and it would be perfectly fine with it. But I'm going to ask you to try to make your code as easy to read as possible for yourself if you go back to a project, and it makes the debugging process a lot easier in the future. Okay, so now let's say we wanted to print the value of num. So we've set it equal to 5. It's system.out.println, and we're just going to print it, the value of num without any quotes. So that's just access, just like the way we did it in Python with print num, where we're doing println num. And again, it's part of the system class, system.out. The system.out, the system library. So if we want to run it, Java has to compile something before it gets run. I'm going to run it, and IntelliJ does that automatically for you. So does Replit. And you can see at the bottom, I can see it says build. So it's building it, it's parsing it, and there we go. So it shows my output window or my terminal, and it shows 5. There's the output. It says process finished. Whenever you see an exit code of 0, that means nothing bad happened. Everything, it exited without any problems. And that's just something that developers and programmers decided upon, that 0, well, nothing's wrong, so 0 is what it is. Let's say we wanted to make a decimal number. So a decimal number, I'm going to put this all together. So I'm going to group my code together. I'm just going to make a new project. I'm going to make a new, I got to plug my power cord in. Give me a sec. Okay, so I have power. We're going to use the keyword double for decimal numbers. And double, and we can say des1 is the name of our variable. Doubles include decimal numbers. So here's how you do a comment in Java. Remember, in Python it was a number sign. In Java it's 2 forward slashes. And that, for me on my keyboard, on most keyboards, It's next to the right shift key, the shift key on the right, and where the question mark is. It's just the 2 forward slashes. You can think of it forward because it's leaning towards the right. Backslashes lean towards the left, so we want forward slashes. So declare a decimal variable that can store decimal numbers. Okay, I think in Python it was float, but we have to use double in Java. And in the C programming language, it's also double. There's so many similarities that if you learn Java and then you have to program in C, if you go to college or university, you already definitely have a leg up, because Java and C share a lot of things in common from a syntax perspective. And then C++ is object-oriented C. Okay, so we have our decimal, and we want to give it a value. So I'm going to say dec1 equals 3.14. Clean this up a bit. So we just have, I like putting spaces between the major parts of code to make it easier to, again, user friendliness, well, programmer friendliness. We're going to say system.out.println dec1. And when you run that, you will see that it prints out 5. Oh, by the way, the first time that you run something, you're going to have to probably use in IntelliJ the play button on the left over here. But, and by the way, that's saying run the main method. Afterwards, it remembers what you did, and it just, you can use Shift F10, or you can just click on the play button up at the top. And so it should show 5 and also 3.14. Okay, so I think that that's, and you can also mix string literals with this. So you can say your integer was in quotes, and in Java you can't use the comma here though. If you want to combine a string literal and a integer or a float or a double or any other variable type, you have to use a plus sign. Okay, so your integer was, I'm going to put your decimal number was, and then a plus sign. Notice I put a space before the end of the quote so that it shows up in your output, and that's going to be the end of this video. It just went over the 2 different types of, and why doesn't, oh, I didn't put a space there on the was. So now when you run it, oh, and here's another thing I want you to know also. Whenever you run your program, it's a 2-step process. It compiles the program, and then it runs the program. In order for Java to compile a program, it has to save it first. So it automatically saves it whenever you run your program, because it has to compile it first. Okay, see you in the next video.